Just fucking do it. Subscribe now. And there was somebody selling a package. This slide and the scripts. And he sold a shit ton of them. Because that's the whole seminar. There isn't anymore. And in those days, only recently is it, you're not 2,000 cold calls away from a millionaire, because now some of the kids are doing it in 1,200, 700. But in those days, it was 2,000 calls, cold calls. So, by the time you do 300 or 400, 500 calls, you figured out how to use the scripts. And then by the time we got to 1,800 or 2,000, you've done a deal. But there isn't anymore. And when I did this slide a number of years ago, we took 3 people from there. One did a deal in 1,200 calls, one did a deal in 1,500 calls, and one did a deal in 1,800 calls. The 1,800 calls was Bruce Whipple. And depending on, you were a short millionaire. Sometimes you were actually a millionaire. To the 60% that accrues to you. Bless you. Now you heard the Belgian Waffle say he did 500 calls in Belgium and 700 calls in the Netherlands, and he did his first deal. You've heard Andres Milner, 1,613 calls to glory. And if you ask, are you sure it's not 1,612? No. 1,615? No. And a lot of people keep track. We used to give you clickers. You know how when you run laps or you do a deal, a click? We used to give you a clicker. 1 clicker for calls and 1 clicker for potential motivated sellers. We used to give you gold cufflinks, QLA cufflinks. We used to give you the Bob thing, that QLA gold, 24 karat gold. We used to give you all kind of shit. None of it worked. In the beginning, I used to give you Rolex watches for your wife or your slut or whoever. That had more effect than anything else. But if I have to motivate you, it doesn't work. More than one of you have said, and you went through all the paperwork again. Everybody, even the people that I've already talked to. And a number of you came here to get I'm using my vulgar words, ass kicked towards the goal line. Everybody understand that? You came to the wrong place. Although I'm considered a world-class motivating speaker, but that's not how I made all my money. And that's how the kids haven't made all their money. I turn you in. It's like the difference between treading water and swimming, either backstroke or Australian crawl or swimming, going in the direction. Most of you, and some of you, will continue to tread water after the seminar. And then something will happen, or your wife will leave you, or your girlfriend will say, get it up, you impotent fuck, or something happens. Or in some cases, some tragedy, one of your children will die, or something really bad in your life happens. I hope that none of that happens, but I know I've been doing this long enough that something happens. And gets you off the dime, so to speak. But since I know you're not going to make 1,800 calls, because you've heard people do it now with 500, and I know you're not going to make 1,500 calls. A few years ago, I said 1,200 calls. And that's 100 cold calls a month. And I know you're not going to work 7 days, because you're not. It's not going to happen. You're going to work 5 days, maybe. And so that's 5 calls a day. And you're not going to do that. Why would you pay, depending on the currency, 30, 35 grand or whatever it is, if you're not going to do that? I alluded to it every single day. It's a box to tick. I'm a box. With my ego as big as it is, it's hard for me to imagine I'm just a box to tick. Well, I tried it and it didn't work. It didn't work. And certainly it's not for everybody. That's God. God knows that. It's not for everybody. It's just not. And when you tie it, it's not for everybody to the fact that shit happens. Corona, high interest rates, your wife, God forbid, gets you're a little young. Maybe a couple of you aren't so young to have a significant other get dementia, but something happens. You find God, you find ayahuasca, whatever you find. Now, see, I'm here to tell you that's all bullshit. The people that wanted to find me already found me before this group. I've been doing this almost 30 years. And somebody reminded me not too long ago that even though I didn't call it QLA, and even though I didn't call it mentees, I've had a flock for 20 years before I started this, where I would, teach. I remember I started the seminars for free in grammar schools. This is in Los Angeles. Grammar schools, junior high schools, junior colleges. I never went up to four-year university when I first started. And I used to give the seminar free at the LA airport, DFW airport, for free. And we'd get 700, 800, 900 people in for free. And then you'd complain that the food was cold or there wasn't vegan. And I used to have other speakers. I had a Marine, a Medal of Honor guy, and used to throw shit at him because you weren't interested in how he got the Medal of Honor in Vietnam. So we've tried all kinds of, in this country, a scheme is not a bad thing. A scheme is a good thing here. In America, a scheme is, shabby, under the table. We've tried all kinds of schemes. All kinds of schemes. And the thing that we're doing now, this week, this is the beginning of the fourth day, is the one that works the best as of the last seminar, which was in January. And the slides, I had trouble finding some of the slides this morning because we have 2,700 slides. We only use about 40 or 50. If you're really a thick shit group, we use 100. And we've had groups thicker than this, so we're going to use about 60, 65 slides. But I had trouble finding some of the slides this morning. I'm not sure why, but I had trouble. But I finally found them. Just as Kat walked in to get the computer from me, I found the last slide I wanted to find. It's not in the quite order, so you're going to see me up here shuffling around, changing, because it's not the exact order that I want it to be in. But I try to use the least amount of material, since you only absorb about 40%. The smart ones, I try to use the least amount of material not to confuse you. But you're confused anyway, okay? And as I told the three people that I saw one-on-one yesterday, in different ways, I was unfortunate enough to have 2 Sikhs out of the 3. And I started to allude to it when I came here to talk before dinner. It never ceases to amaze me. I'm 77 years old, soon to be 78. I've been doing this almost 30 years. The questions that you ask. And all 3 of you asked me, well, what questions should we ask? No, it's not for me to tell you what questions. You ask the questions that you need. But unfortunately, you need the wrong thing. One of you that I've had one-on-one time had 2 questions. They weren't really questions. One was a statement and one was a question. He was the closest to using my time the best. We used to have a 2-hour one-on-one. Then we had a 90-minute one-on-one. And at 2 hours, I was a tired motherfucker at the end of the week. Because I used to see people after dinner, after the movie. And that means I had to stay up. I was fucking beat, because then my days are 18, 19, 20 hours. And then I'd get up when I didn't have time to read the shit. We used to see people at lunch. We've tried all kinds of permutations. Really, we don't need one-on-one. If I was to give seminars past 80, which is highly unlikely, there's going to be no one-on-ones. There's going to be no homework. I'm not going to collate anything. Because it's a fucking crapshoot. I know that now, after being in front of thousands of you. What I have to say on the one-on-one has little or nothing to do with your success. Now, I won't say nothing, but slim and zero and slim left-hander, I forget how that saying goes. I know that now. And it doesn't hurt my ego any. When I did 2 hours, it had a reverse effect. One of you yesterday said that I met, you intimidated. Well, if I intimidate you now, you would have not lived to the seminar in 1995. When we locked your cell phones up, we took all the phones out of the castle, shut them down. You were locked down. Locked down. But that's where all the money came from. How's that possible? That a disproportionate amount of the billionaires came from the 90s and the early 2000s. When we gave them nothing. We even tried one time giving only one piece of toilet paper. You know, one square. We've tried everything known to man here. That didn't work out too well. So this is the refined, the bon vivant raconteur edition of the seminar. And yet we still produce guys like Gabriel and the rest. But I know now, you're going to hear Thomas tomorrow, who is the zealot closer. He's the hammer of the webinars. And he's going to tell you, look in front of you, look behind you, just as the pig fucker tried to repeat what Thomas said, and look to the sides of you, and they're all going to fail. And in Thomas's class, we had 2 success stories. I mean, super success. We had the old man from Nottingham, and we had Thomas. So when he says faded, he means not a super success, not a super, And Andreas's, they had 2. But a lot of people made money, but they didn't make money like Gabriel did or TK did. I wouldn't come to a seminar like this unless my goal was, and we're going to talk about goals after this slide, because tonight part of your homework is to do goals and affirmations. And we're going to show you some examples this morning. But I wouldn't come here and, I don't bother with jet lag and all the shit and to just make a few bucks. To double my money in the stock market from $1 million to $2 million. I wouldn't fucking get out of, now because I've got a lot of money, I wouldn't get out of bed for that much money. But, I would come here because I'm going to make hundreds of millions or billions. And tomorrow when you read your goals associated with your affirmations, and I still say I have 23 affirmations. I've had between 21 and 25 for 50 years. 7 or 8 of my affirmations I looked at last night and again this morning are the same ones I've had since I'm a young Army officer. Haven't changed. The ones that have changed is when the kids are little, you want them to be born healthy and all that shit, and with all their fingers and all. Yeah, okay. And I fell into that trap myself. And then you want them to get out of kindergarten and grammar school. And I did all that, And so those are gone. But now I got them for the grandkids, the same fucking goals, I didn't have to rewrite them, just cross out the name and put a new name in. Okay. And the grandkids go around wearing T-shirts, future legend, and and all this shit. And they go to the best schools money can buy, which isn't necessarily the best schools. They're the best schools money can buy, and I know that because our kids, our 2 boys, went to the finest schools on the planet and learned nothing. But I know why rich people send, because they want, at least if they're going to get habits, let's get habits from rich kids, bad habits. But 5 calls a day, getting through to someone, a decision maker. You've already heard 2 or 3 people say, call in the morning, because if they answer the phone early in the morning, that's normally the owner. Call in late afternoon, early evening. And when you call on the weekends, the owners, the only people that answer the phone, other than the trash people, are the principles. 5 a day. You heard Andrea say he was making between 50 and 60 when he was working, a full-time job. But he was doing it 7 days a week. So if he was doing, so maybe 7 or 8 a day. It doesn't sound hard, but it is to get through to the decision maker. But in the beginning, you won't want to know whether they're a decision maker, because then you'll know it was a call wasted if it wasn't a decision maker, and you don't want to have to put that down. So you'll fool yourself, just like I fooled myself sending my kids to the best school money could buy. And then after 400 or 500 calls, you'll be more comfortable making the calls. And 2, you can be able to ascertain who a decision maker is as quickly as humanly possible. But that's it. That's the program. 5 calls a day doesn't seem like much, but hardly anybody does it. And I've been saying it 30 years, I don't lie to you. It's not important why you don't do it. It's just important that you don't. The reason why you don't do it, everybody's got a different reason in this room. Everybody. Whether you're a pretend Indian or a half-ass Sikh you've all got a reason. And I told you from the first day or the second day, until you empty your cup of shit that you got, remember that pile of dinosaur shit, you can't make this program work effectively. You can pretend to make it work. It's like most of your marriages right now. You're pretending. And some of your significant others know it. Or they're pretending and you know it. But this is where the women show up with no makeup. You know? And the men show up with no Viagra. This is the real fucking deal. It's the real deal. And not many people are truthful enough, candid enough, to say like the Belgian Waffle. He still throws up making calls. And he's worth 25 or 40 million or some number. I don't know what the number is. Because he doesn't like it. You won't either. I still don't. And I'm a world-class guy on the phone. I don't like it. This program is about getting out of your comfort zone. This program is about getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's a hard thing to do, just like the backward bicycle. Almost impossible. And for some of you, impossible. It's how bad you want it, how desperate you are. And Peter said it, not best, and he was fucking desperate. And after those 2 deals cratered that I told him were dog shit, he was getting fucked around. I mean, he had run out of his money. Didn't have 2 pennies. So now he's got to make the fucking thing happen. He comes to the hardcore to brag about the deal, and then the deal collapses. And so he spent another 35 grand to come to hardcore. Now he's got nothing. He's got his in-laws saying, "With dog shit, we knew she should have never married you." And that's what they're going to say. And in some cases, they're right. They should have never married you for a different reason, not the reason that the parents are saying, your in-laws. And then, you're in the shit. You're in the shit. Now you gotta. And as they used to say in the oil business, when you drilled a bunch of dry holes, and the only reason I became an M&A guy, a devotee of Andrew Carnegie, this guy drilled 20-some dry holes after I went public. I didn't find enough grease to put on my hair, and I've never had much hair, so that's what they used to say. You haven't found enough grease to part your hair. Well, I found no grease, and I realized, well, this is bullshit. So I became an M&A motherfucker. It's easier to buy oil production and revenue than find it. And that's how it happened. By serendipity. By fear. Desperation. I collect money from public shareholders, not the least of which the Bank of England. They've had all these, I better do something here. And I became an M&A guru, as it were. But by accident. Now, when I used to give speeches, not just universities, they understand that. When I used to give speeches to big companies, oil companies, Exxon doesn't want to hear that. They want to hear that I had a engineering plan, 3, 5, and 10-year plan. We were going to find, high quality reserve. It's all bullshit. That's what they write down. And when I hear the chairman, CEO of ExxonMobil, nice man, I met him once a long time ago, and he's saying how they're going to be green by 2050 or whatever. If he really believes that, God be with him. I'd bet my life that he doesn't really believe that, because it's not possible. It's just like we're never going to have enough electric things to plug in your electric car in the United States. Never. In 1,000 motherfucking years. If you were bright enough to do the math, or in this country, the math says it. I don't know why it's plural here. It's not possible. We're never going to have enough fucking plugins. And the plugins that we have mostly don't have enough juice. The watts or the whatever the fuck you got in them. But how come nobody talks about that? Because it's the current flavor of the day. Common consensus. It's not, it's common. It's, common wisdom. Conventional wisdom. It's not wisdom. It's conventional. Getting back to the 5 calls a day. To make 5 calls a day and get through, you're going to have to make 50 to 100. I'm going to say that again, slow. And that's why you don't do it. 50 to 100 to get 5 decision makers. Because the decision maker isn't just say, yeah, I'm the owner, and click. That's not a call. The decision maker allows you the 5 or 4 or 12 or 18 seconds. Have you ever considered selling your business? Yes or no? That's the decision maker. And it'll be 5 for the slicker. The girls will get a better answer because they're more polite to women. Wrongfully, but that's the way it is, guys. Just like they can fuck all night, we can't. I mean, it's just, the facts. 50 to 100. 100's a lot. When our kids left undergraduate school and were working before they went to graduate school, they both took a year off. And I was scared as I can get, because they both went into jobs that made quite a bit of money for 21, 22-year-old kids. And I thought, when they get a lot of money in sex, drugs, and rock and roll, they're never going to go back to school. No, I was wrong. But when I said, when you go to work, be the first in the building, the last to leave, and make 300 cold calls. Because you always, not always, but almost always, you go into a sales training program. When you go with IBM or Intel or whoever, it's a sales training program. And the reason why they start you out in sales is because revenue is king. And they both went in, and they both asked me, why, Daddy, how do you know 300 cold calls a day? Because nobody else in the country will make 300 cold calls a day. Just coincidentally, you and your brother overlap, and you're both out of school at the same time. So there'll be 2 people, both named Peña, making 300 cold calls a day. And when the CEO of Cardinal Health, I mentioned Cardinal Health because our youngest son worked there, and the chairman would come to work, and he'd say, whose light is that? That's Derek Peña. And when he'd leave, the president would say, whose light is that? That's Derek Peña. Same thing for Kelly. They were there before the trash people came. And they both made 300 cold calls a day, and they both led the nation. And they're making a lot of money. Okay, now, out of school making 175, 250 grand is not a big deal now, because you can get jobs like that, especially in the IT business. But straight out of school 15 years ago, I'm making $195,000 a year as a kid. It was a lot of fucking money. It was all sales oriented. So I was worried that they wouldn't go back to school. But they both did. How do you know 300 cold calls a day is going to get it done, Dad? Because nobody else does it. The only guy in this program that's ever made 300 cold calls is Asperger's with a tennis elbow. Oh, goddamn, cramp with a tennis elbow. I can guarantee it. Ollie with his, his Nazi, he's not. Doesn't matter. Orange Sikh or fucking lazy ass Sikh. Forget about it. Not going to happen. Him because he's a lazy cunt. You because life will get in the way. But the difference between being a lazy cunt and life getting in the way, it doesn't make any difference, does it? The results are still 0. 0 and 0 and 0 are still 0. Even in the new math. We all got a reason. Any questions about 5 calls a day? You had your hand up on it. Is this a Nazi deal or what? What is this?
No, I was going to say, how can you only make 5 calls a day if you're really serious about it?
I know. Well, and how can you, let's say for those of you that are married, how can you be a legitimate male partner and not service your wife or your significant other? What kind of man are you? There's no answer to that, is there? Some days you just don't feel like it. I've never had many of those days, but I hear, at my age for sure, I hear that some days you just can't get it up. And I pole vault to the fucking bathroom every morning at 77. But I hear other women tell Sally, because Sally's I know you haven't noticed this, Sally's a lot younger than I am. They tell, how's that possible? And you know exactly what I mean, don't you? Everybody in this fucking room. And then you wonder why she goes and fucks the milkman. Or now Uber. I hear Uber guys get a lot of ass myself. And those guys that deliver food from Uber delivers food, right? Boy, if I was a young student, I know where I'd be working. Look at how that's gone sideways.